Welcome to episode 50 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy is a podcast about people in Canadian theatre, featuring conversations with actors, directors, playwrights, stage managers, and more. If you'd like to be a guest on Stageworthy or you just want to drop me a line, you can find Stageworthy on Facebook and Twitter at StageworthyPod, and you can find the website at stageworthypodcast.com. If you like the podcast, I hope you'll subscribe on iTunes or Google Music or whatever podcast app you use, and consider leaving a comment or rating. Victoria Laberge is an arts administrator with her fingers in many pies. She's Director of Development for Nightwood Theatre, co-producer of the monthly storytelling series Confabulation, and Publicist for Sex T-Rex. Start working with Sex T-Rex as their publicist?
Well, I first met them at the Fringe, of course, at Montreal Fringe, and so we just became pals.
Yeah.
And I was just a big fangirl. And they approached me originally to produce their run at the Storefront Theatre in March.
Okay.
But I was a little bit too swamped, but I did want to help, and so I came on board and said, how about I just help at least try and get some media out and try and get you guys some reviews. I have like a few contacts from here, mostly in Montreal though, but from when I was when I ran Bloody Underrated, the arts and culture blog in Montreal. So yeah, I called in a couple favors and just sent lots of emails. And you just need, like, I what I love about working with them is being able to let them make the art and do that, focus on that, and they're so good at it, and they're so funny. So it's really heartwarming for me to be able to give them some extra time to work on that, if it means that I can just spend a couple hours on Twitter, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, publicity is not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that when you start making theater, it's like, oh, I can do all this stuff. Oh, wait, I have to talk about it too.
Exactly. Oh, you have to get those bums in those seats.
And that's the part that people just don't know. Like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Like people into seats. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I'm the opposite. I don't really consider myself an artist. I don't. It would terrify me to like have to create a Fringe show as you guys do, and then put it up on stage and. Yeah, that's the part that's scary to me.
But you have a passion for theater. You worked. How long did you work for Montreal Fringe?
Montreal Fringe, I was on staff for a couple years, and then just kept being around. I'm there every year, even if I don't live there anymore.
Yeah. Where did you find the passion for theater?
It was at the Montreal Fringe, definitely. Yeah.
How did you get introduced to the Montreal Fringe?
I graduated.
We have an announcement about a bicycle. So go ahead.
So when I first graduated with my Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Art History from Concordia, the day that I submitted my final essay and was essentially graduated, I had a panic attack. What am I going to do with my life? I have no idea where I'm going from here. You know, everything was just leading to get that degree, and then what? You know, and I had this email sitting in my inbox from the Montreal Fringe, just calling out, looking for interns, and so I had no other prospects on the go, and so I decided to go for it. And I had only heard of the Fringe, but I had never been. And they took me on, and I just fell in love. That community welcomed me with open arms. They're like this big family, and anybody's welcome, and it's so lovely and beautiful. And so that's why I'm still a diehard supporter, and I do everything I can to try and send people to the Fringe all the time, because it's my favorite time of year.
What were you majoring in when you were at university?
Art history. Yeah, but visual art, so it was a little bit of a leap. I had never worked in theater before, or I had done a little bit of theater, as a young kid, but so I always had that passion for it. And
And then what did they have you doing when you were an intern for so long?
At first I was just a general intern, but they promoted me to assistant to the communications manager. So actually, I guess that's where I got like my publicity started.
So what did you do as the assistant to the communications manager?
I did a lot of photocopying.
That's always important. Yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to put together these archives of all the reviews that each troupe had gotten. So when they company came for their last payout, we would hand them this nice little folder of all the reviews they got.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do they still do that?
I don't know.
Oh.
Do they not? I don't know.
I haven't been there it's actually been like almost 5 years since I've been to Montreal.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, well, that's where you and I met. The next year, they hired me as the artist liaison. Yeah, and that's when we met.
Yeah, it was. I mean, as artist liaison, I don't know how we would have done without an artist liaison.
Oh yeah. Oh god, that is the best job in the world.
I don't know if a lot of fringes have an artist liaison.
I wonder about
Montreal is kind of unique that way.
Yeah, I wonder about that. So does that mean, like, if, for example, Hamilton Fringe, which you just came and you were very successful, congratulations.
Thank you.
So who are you in touch with if you need to be in touch with someone?
General manager or the artistic director, or it depends what you needed.
Depends,
but there was no
it's true.
one
Toronto
person.
Fringe, it's true. Toronto Fringe, they'll always I guess you're in touch with the general manager.
Yeah, but you just don't have. There isn't a liaison who you can go to say, what do we do for this? Like, there's nobody to sort of help you, which is, I mean, Montreal, I think it sort of is a sign of how welcoming the Montreal Fringe is, that they have somebody who's there to help sort of guide you into the Montreal Fringe, which is something that a lot of the fringes don't. Yeah. And some of the ones that have been there a long, long time also don't have that, you know?
Yeah, Montreal Fringe is so warm. Yeah. It's it's the party fringe too. I think a lot of artists say they don't make money, but
I know
you'll have a good time.
That's generally what I hear. What people say is, it won't make a lot of money, but I'm going to have a great time. And I think that is part of why some people make that their first stop.
Definitely.
To have a party to celebrate starting the big journey.
Definitely.
So, in addition to from Fringe, and you were the artist liaison for that second year. Where did you go from there? So from there, I had a couple of different contracts. One was at the English Language Arts Network, which is this really cool organization, but it was just a short-term contract. I stayed on a little bit as the assistant to the artistic director of Mainline at the time, Jeremy Heckman, and then helped out in the office at Mainline a little bit. But I got my first big girl job at Centaur Theatre in their fundraising department, so as their development assistant. And that's where I learned the fundraising skills that I use now at Nightwood Theatre here in Toronto. So fundraising skills, this is one of those things that in addition to publicity, it's another thing that a lot of people in indie theatre don't have. Like, if you start thinking about creating your own show, two things you probably don't know anything about is telling people about your show and getting money for your show. Yeah. How did you learn how to separate money from people?
They're not separate at all. I would say.
No, I mean like getting money from the people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So I do. But that's the thing. That's what's cool about development is that it's all about your relationship to people. So they're not going to donate to you if they don't support your cause and support what you do. So. Yeah, it is all very intertwined, and that's why I'm very interested in the relationship actually between development and marketing, because you have to be able to sell what you're trying to get them to buy into, either whether it's tickets or a donation or supporting you with their time if they're a volunteer or So, I mean, I learned a lot from Centaur. Like it's a very well-oiled machine, and they're 40 somewhat year-old company and a big huge organization, so they know what they're doing, and they've got their systems in place, and they write letters to kind of the same group of people every year, and that gets them the same donations every year, and they don't really need to switch anything up to make it work. It works, At Nightwood, it's also it's a 37-year-old company, but it's a much smaller scale, and so it's much more. There's a lot of more innovation. We're always coming up with new and exciting things to roll out, new programs to be able to get people interested and bring more and more people on board, whether it's donors or participants to new programs that we roll out, or do
you find there's more of a challenge at Nightwood than there was at Centaur, which has like the same thing, and they just have their process, and at Nightwood?
Yeah, I mean, my roles are very different too. At Centaur, I was the assistant to the development director, whereas I am the director of development here at Nightwood. And I'm only part-time. There's it's a very small staff, and the marketing director is also part-time. So it is much more challenging, to try and get all that work done that we need in limited resources. Yeah.
So what brought you from Montreal to Toronto?
Adventure.
Really?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Montreal, but so I'd only ever lived there my whole life, and I had a good friend that I also met at Montreal Fringe when I was artist liaison. His name's Chris, and he had lived in Toronto, and he had a room opened up that was cheap in his house, and texted me about it, and I said yes. Yeah, I want it.
So you hadn't planned on it? You were just like...
I had been thinking about it, just like my previous trips to Toronto. They were getting more and more frequent on the mega. Just hop on the megabus and like spend the weekend with pals, and there's always so much going on here. I had come a lot when I was doing Bloody Underrated. I had come a lot for the Toronto Sketch Fest and Toronto Fringe, just to hang out, and I always had such a great time here. So I had been thinking about it. The city is so huge. Where forcibly the art scene is much bigger as well. There's so much going on.
Yeah, there's a lot. But to my mind, the theater scenes are very different in each place. Taking away the fact that 50% of the theater in Montreal is in French, or I don't know if it's 50%.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Taking that away, I think that I get the feeling like the scenes are very different.
Yeah. Why would you say that?
Well, see, the thing is that as somebody from Toronto and going to Montreal, I feel like art is just a thing that people have. Like it is every day. It is not necessarily an event. It is important, and it is something that's part of life. Whereas I find the English Canada, and especially the Toronto thing, is that for the average person, art is something that they encounter either accidentally or because they spent a lot of money to see the art, and it's not something they see as something that's important. Now, I might be completely wrong about those perceptions. But
no, yeah, I think that's accurate, and even among the arts community, I feel like there's much more business sense in Toronto. I mean, I think even the artists here do have a really good sense of like needing to get bums in seats and needing to get donations and to fund their art. Yeah, a lot of money talk here in Toronto for sure.
Well, I mean, it's expensive to make theater.
Yeah.
And some of the grants don't come here.
Yeah.
Like the Ontario Arts Council is like part of their mandate is not Toronto. You know, it's like if you're an artist trying to get money and you live in Toronto, you're at a disadvantage for the most part. So you're trying to, because space is at a premium and renting a theater space is difficult. We end up thinking about money a lot and how to get it and how to make the thing work.
Absolutely.
Are the spaces just cheaper in Montreal that people don't have to worry about that so much?
I suppose so. Yeah, if you think of I always think of Mainline and the independent theater company, and they charge about $10 an hour in their little mini main space. But I guess, and there's a big independent theater scene there too.
Yeah. I was talking with Amy before Montreal Fringe, and she was talking about the explosion of spaces along Saint Laurent, with Mainline being the first, and now there are more spaces that are where art can happen, where theater can happen along that street. It's amazing to think that the one space sort of spawned another space and spawned another space, and it can work like that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Saint Laurent is the main. It's like such a hub of the city. So yeah, it would make absolute sense for them to congregate there.
I think I would love to see that in an independent scene here.
Well, I mean, we have I'm not always at Bad Dog all the time.
Yeah.
And you have Comedy Bar just down the street, and then Storefront Theater just down the street from there. Yeah, it's a good little area.
It is a good little area. I would love to see another. I love Storefront. I don't see enough there. But I would love to see one or two other theater spaces, not just comedy spaces, but theater spaces along that area. Just to, I would love to see I think it would be amazing to see an indie street in the city.
It would be amazing. Yeah,
that'd be really awesome.
Yeah, but as you say, it's expensive here. Unit 102 just had to, although that was condos.
Yeah,
they kicked them out because they're going to build condos there instead.
But literally that is the problem with space in Toronto is that you can get more by knocking a building down and putting condos there. I mean, for a while that was the plan for the Princess of Wales.
Really?
There were going to be 3 condos, and to do that, they were going to knock down the Princess of Wales Theatre.
Wow.
Now, of course, the city was enough people were no, we're not doing that, and the city was no, do 2 condos.
Okay.
So the Princess of Wales is not being knocked down, but that it becomes more economically viable to put in a condo than to keep the space going.
That's so sad. But people got to live somewhere too, right?
They do. But I'm not convinced that we are not saturated.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
I have my doubts that all those condos are, necessary, or that we have we are not hurting for condo space in this city.
Definitely, yeah.
And I don't even know what Unit 102 is going to do.
I don't know either, actually, because they said that they're still mounting their first show that they had planned for that season. I'm so bummed about that, though, because Sex T-Rex was going to remount Leviathan in February 2017. I was really pumped for that. It's such a good show.
Is there... Do they know... obviously, it's so hard because, if you lose a space in this city, you're struggling to find another space.
Yeah, I wouldn't... I didn't really have the producer perspective for that, but that's exactly what Caitlin was saying. Now that they lost their space, they pretty much can't do it this season. They still want to do it, but it'll have to be a much later date to get them. Be able to get a venue. Yeah, it does suck.
Yeah. So can we talk Nightwood?
Yes, please. I love. Yes, I would love to.
Tell me for people who don't know, what is Nightwood?
Nightwood is Canada's oldest professional women's theatre company, so we're the flagship feminist theatre of the company. And what we mean by that is just that we try and elevate women's voices. So all of our administrative staff is all women, which there are very few female ADs in the city, which is very impressive. And all the plays that we put on are generally written by women, not necessarily all starring women, but mostly directed by women as well. Yeah, and usually the plays that we choose also have a very staunch feminist issues angle. Yeah, this season is so stellar. It's going to be amazing. We're starting off with a double bill. 2 pieces called Mouthpiece, which won a couple of Dora Awards. It was on last season. It's a 2-hander, and there's some a cappella, and there's some movement, and it's just gorgeous. It's really stunning. And then the other part of that double bill is called Quiver. It's by Anna Chatterton. She was our playwright in residence last season, and she's brilliant and hilarious, and she's kind of armed with a loop pedal and all this technical mumbo-jumbo where she just embodies all these characters and has this really rich story that she tells all by herself on this one little stage, and it's going to be really spectacular.
Can we talk about the importance of elevating women's voices? I mean, when you think about most of the theater companies, especially the established companies in Toronto, which have a performance space or have whatever, they are predominantly run by men.
Producing in Canada too.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just Toronto. Yeah.
Producing work by men. Starring predominantly men.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, as much as there is a conversation and an ongoing conversation that I keep hearing going on in those groups outside of Nightwood, there isn't a whole lot of movement. I don't see a lot of change for the most part, except with a couple of exceptions. But that makes Nightwood even more important to the Canadian theatre scene as a place that is specifically concentrating on women's voices.
Yeah. I would say that feminism is very prevalent in the zeitgeist right now, right? In yours or my Facebook feed, right? All our friends are very feminist and aren't afraid to speak up when there's something that's not feminist.
That's right.
But when you step outside of our community, I think you're absolutely right. There's still a lot of work to be done, and so especially like in the indie community, I think that there is a lot of rise, and there's a lot of women who are just killing it, just rocking it. Yeah. But as a professional women's theater company, we have a chance to make a lot more waves, I think. Yeah.
It's funny because you talk about stepping outside of our immediate community, and I mean, any woman on Twitter finds at a certain point that using the word feminist ends up with a certain amount, and that is kind
disgusting.
Of the world. It is disgusting. It is disgusting. It is unfortunately part of the world that we live in, that there are people out there who gravitate towards that word and are so threatened by the idea of women's voices that they have to shut it down in some way. Does Nightwood experience that in any way? Because you use feminism as very casually in the way that you're talking about it, and the fact that you're a women's professional theater group or company, feminism is just a part of it. Do you find that area of the world attempts to influence Nightwood at all?
It's so interesting. This is a very recent phenomenon that we're using the word feminist.
Okay.
Because there were almost very recently. I mean, I've only been on staff for less than 2 years, but right before I came on board, there were comments about how, even from their own board members, about how they didn't want to use the word feminist because that would scare off the corporations, or can't possibly understand why, but they were hesitant to use that word, and so they would just use the word women all over their because everyone wants to fund the minorities, so it's safe to use the word woman. But what is it about the word feminist that's so scary? And
I wish I knew. Yeah. I wish I knew, and I wish I knew what it was about it that threatened certain people so much.
But when I came on board, and the marketing director as well, Taylor Trowbridge, and Nazif Sahi is our incredible producer, and so we're all kind of younger generation, and we're using the word feminist. Yeah. We identify as feminists, and so we've implemented that language.
Was there any pushback on implementing that language?
Not pushback, no. I mean, certainly not from our directors, no.
Good.
And even the board as well just embraced it and saw that it was important. Now that it is being talked about so much with Justin Trudeau, and saying how important feminism is, now we can start to talk about it.
But it's funny that or not funny that there was ever a period of time where it was a word that somebody had to feel like they could not use.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
I think about a couple of years ago, some people that I knew, they're quite young, talking about, and young women talking about how they don't need feminism. And I kept wanting to take them and say, well, the fact that you vote, the fact that you can have a job, the fact that all these things, this is feminism. Yeah. Somewhere along the line, for some people, feminism as a word became, what did it become? Undesirable. It became a dirty word. It became...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dirty word, yeah. I mean, there's extremists in everything, right?
Yeah, of course there, yeah.
Yeah. But extreme feminists were doing it for a reason. And
well, I mean, it's they were, but, and it's just one of those things when I have my friends who are very feminist online, and I can still see them get attacked or things like that for using the F word online.
Wow.
And it's a thing that still happens.
Yeah.
You just got, and I don't even know. I guess I don't understand the mindset that makes somebody attack that.
No, I know. It really is hard to wrap your mind around that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, like it's not our community.
No.
Yeah. It's certainly not anybody listening to this podcast.
No, of course not. And if it is, go fuck yourself. I don't.
I want to, if I can keep telling you about the season.
Absolutely,
too.
I want to hear about the season.
After the double bill, we're opening the new year in 2017 in January with Unholy by Diane Flax, who's this amazing lesbian writer who explores misogyny in religion in this piece in particular, but yeah, generally she's just an incredibly talented comedian and writer. So yeah, really strong figure for the queer community as well. So we're trying to reach out to them, and it's at Buddies in Bad Times too. So that'll be fantastic. It's actually a co-production with them. And then we're closing out the season with Century Song, which Volcano Theatre did last year. That one too is going to be so stunning and spectacular. It's a one-woman show as well by Nima Bickersteth, and it's completely a cappella. There's no words, no dialogue, and she's a soprano, and she's an incredibly talented singer. And she kind of goes through a century of women's lives, Black women in particular, and it's going to be just gorgeous.
Does Nightwood have a space that it performs in?
No, we only have our administrative office, and we rent out other venues.
Is there a venue that is the most common one for you, or for Nightwood, or is it whatever?
It's when it changes, varies widely, but this season in particular, we're at Buddies for 3 of our shows. Okay. And then the Century Song's going to be at the new Crow's Theatre.
Oh, out
in the East End, brand new space.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I know. I think it's going to be really stunning. Yeah.
What are you most looking for? Can you pick out one thing you're most looking forward to?
Oh, I can't choose. Season? They're like my children.
I know they are, but I'm gonna ask you to choose.
I am really, really looking forward to seeing Mouthpiece. It was so highly acclaimed, and I was really bummed not to get the chance to see it last season. So I'm so excited that it's coming back. Cool. Yeah. Cool. I've met those 2 ladies before, and they're really lovely. Nice. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about Publicity for a second?
Sure.
Because you've been doing publicity for Sex T-Rex for a little while.
Yeah.
And you had some experience at the Montreal Fringe. Is there something that you think that people forget that they need to do in terms of publicity?
I think that direct communication, direct messaging, or phone calls or texting or whatever, it has to be a direct ask. I think that when you do like a mass email of your press release, who's gonna, like, there's nothing to say that they've read it or that they're gonna pay attention, but if you really say, hey Phil, are you coming to the show? Like, you can't ignore that. I think that's the most important, and this is of course for a smaller scale, like trying to fill out the Bad Dog Theatre. I haven't done publicity for anything of major scale, and I can't even. I know that our marketing director at Nightwood struggles with that same thing. Like, how do you reach everyone in Toronto? Because everyone in Toronto should come and see our shows. It appeals to everybody, but how do you reach them? And so I think I don't know. I think it's
just when you're thinking about something on a, because I think that there are rules, like things that you can do on a small scale that must work on a larger scale as well. But if you're thinking in terms of like promoting Sex T-Rex at the storefront, is there a way that you approached promoting Sex T-Rex?
That one was interesting because, actually this is Caitlin who like opened my eyes to this with their show Swordplay, for example. it's a kind of a Princess Bride parody set in a 90s video game. So you have so many different demographics you can reach out to. You can reach out to the video game nerds, the film buffs, you know, and not just people who just generally enjoy comedy or theater, let alone, you know. Yeah, so when she was telling me about, like, write to Snakes and Lattes, see if we can get in their newsletter. Like, that's such a big leap, but it makes so much sense. People who go and play board games, or, you know, the nerds who go and play video games, or who go and buy comics, they love this show. Yeah. And, like, how do you get them to know about it, to find out about that it's happening? Yeah. Just got to get them in the door.
That is always the question, is how do you let people know that it's happening? Yeah. It's like, outside of Fringe, and, you know, like Fringe has you know, certain things. First of all, there is a focus on theater during Fringe that sort of gives you an advantage, sort of a leg in the door for some people. Yes, exactly. Yeah. But outside of Fringe, how do you need to find your audience? Yeah. And try to somehow get them into the building, and like, even to have theater on their radar. Yeah,
I mean, social media is my greatest tool for sure. Yeah, it's so effective, and you can do, like, I can spend hours on Twitter just, like, prospecting. If I, like, search a hashtag, and then that brings me to these people who are talking about it, and, you know, and even just, like, looking through people's followers. Oh, like, that's a thing. Like, you know, there are Twitter accounts for organizations as well, of course. And, or movements, or it's so much fun. It's I find it really exciting.
I have this idea. You know, last year I've had this I think somebody else I was talking to was mentioning this conversation. Was it last year, 2 years ago, where during one of the winter festivals there was this conversation about. Again, basically, where's the audience and how do we get the audience? And it ended up being more of a, you know, everybody in the room sort of talking, and, like, instead of, like, having, I think it could have been moderated a little better, but it is that conversation about, like, well, how do we as indie theater artists, and, you know, Nightwood, I think, is at a level where you could still, even though it's a professional women's theater company.
Oh yeah, there's still grassroots, like, totally marketing that has to be done. Yeah, for sure.
Part of me feels, and has felt, at least since that conversation, that indie theater could pool our audiences. I've been thinking a lot lately about the idea that there's audience enough for everyone, and that was something that Cameron Moore said when she did her. You know, promoting your Fringe show at the Montreal Fringe talk, was that there is audience enough for everyone, and that's sort of like something that I've been thinking about a lot. That
like, is there? Well, I always kind of see the same people at our shows, eh?
I know, but I wonder. The idea that I sort of wonder about is, so you have your audience, and I have my audience. Yeah. And my audience doesn't know about your audience, but my audience would probably dig your shows. So if I was to tell my audience about your show, and you were to tell your audience about my show, they are all just as likely to see our shows. Yeah. Because our shows are not breaking the bank. Our shows are not, like, going for Mervish prices. Yeah. Our shows are affordable. Yeah. And so if I was to tell my people about Kat Sandler's show and your show, and like, we were sort of to share our audience like that we could increase our audience.
Yeah, cross-promo is so important.
Definitely. Of course, that's one of those, because right now I think that we are very precious about our audiences, like, holding on to them. This audience is mine.
Oh, really? I don't know. I'm all about cross-promo. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And we were talking about the relationship between development and marketing. And it's like just trying to reach out to people and thinking of who you can reach out to, and whether it's, like, asking them for a donation or asking them to even just share your event on their Facebook timeline, like, that's so helpful, and it makes such a difference.
Do you have the ability to see that has made a difference? Is, like, somebody sharing the event, does it actually increase the ticket sales?
I do think so, and I mean, maybe it's all optics too, but that's important too. If you see lots of different people are talking about this thing, whether or not we get the same amount of bums in seats, it makes us more successful in that they'll think about us for next time. You know, they'll have heard about us at least.
the power. I think the power of social media is in people talking about things, and that becomes like the more people will talk about a thing, the better off you're going to be, because people are interested in what their friends are talking about. So maybe
definitely, absolutely. But you're such a good conversationalist. We've gone so far, and I haven't even talked to you about confabulation.
Okay, what? Okay, wait. Let's back up. Let's back up, and let's. So, what is Confabulation?
Confabulation is a live, all-true monthly storytelling event.
Okay.
So it started off in Montreal, and it's got a really great fan base there, and they usually sell out. They're at Mainline once a month. We brought it here to Toronto in March. March was our first episode, when one of the co-producers of Confabulation Montreal moved to Toronto as well. His name's Paula Flalo. And we also have Andrea Elalouf co-producing with us. She's the Associate Director of Communications at CanStage. So it's a great team, and yeah, we put out a call every month. Anybody can apply to tell a story, and we just give them a theme. It's usually about like 10-15 minute stories.
So is it kind of like the Moth? Is it like
similar, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, similar idea.
I think Nisha Coleman.
Yeah, she's one of the she's one of the co-producers in Montreal. She was in town, and so she just was on our most recent edition at Burdock Music Hall.
I didn't even know she was back in town.
Yeah,
she talked to me. She was both before her show in Toronto and also on the Fringe roundups I did. She was really, really great.
She's amazing. Is that where you met her?
Yeah,
she's great. She's an incredible storyteller. Did you see her Fringe show?
I did not get to see it. One of those. The problem is that at the time that the Toronto Fringe was going on, I had to work my day job and rehearse my show for Hamilton. So it was like I almost got to see virtually nothing. Right. It was so hard.
Did you come to see Wasteland?
I didn't get to see.
Oh my God! I can't believe you.
I know. It was like another one of those shows that I didn't get to see, but there were so many shows on my list that I could not see.
Did you see anything?
I saw a couple of shows. So I saw some hits. I saw some misses. But I didn't. There were a bunch of shows that I wanted to see. I wanted to see the show with Kat Sandler and Peter and Chris. I saw the Peter and Chris show. Okay, good. Every year, Sarah and I, my girlfriend, we go to Peter and Chris. Oh yeah, if they're there, we're going to see them.
Definitely.
So
they were so much fun in the Kat Sandler show. But you know what? To be totally honest with you, and I'll never tell Kat this, but it wasn't my favorite of hers. It was amazing because she's amazing.
Of course, yeah.
So the bar's very high.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of shows that I did not enjoy, but I mean,
you always will. It's Fringe.
You always will. It is Fringe. There were a bunch of shows that I just you couldn't get tickets for.
Yeah.
So, and I had a media pass and I still couldn't get tickets for it.
Yeah.
It's. So there's all those shows that I didn't get to see. So Confabulation.
Yeah. The next edition is on. It's the first Wednesday of every month.
First Wednesday of every month.
And we're at Burdock Music Hall, which is a beautiful little venue at Dufferin and Bloor.
Is there a website for Confabulation?
Absolutely, confabulation.ca.
Awesome.
And you can apply. Anybody can apply. There's we welcome first-time storytellers. The way we set ourselves apart from this amazing and dense storytelling community here in Toronto, because there are a lot of storytelling shows, we offer a little one-on-one workshop of your story with one of our expert team of storytellers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and everybody gets paid too. Our storytellers get paid for their time.
Oh.
So, it's very important for us to pay the artists. And the next theme is, it's called Dedications, stories of music or songs and their stories or something. It's dedications, and it's the idea is that it's a little bit different from the usual format in that the idea is that the storytellers will have to play a song first and then explain what the song is about or where that song came from. So we got some cool musicians lined up. We've got Charlotte Cornfield is going to be on. She's the booking agent at the Burdock, but she's also an incredibly talented artist in her own right. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Confabulation, sort of an import from Montreal.
Yeah, and we're going to be branching out to Victoria, BC, too. They had their little pre-launch event as part of Victoria Fringe just a couple of weeks ago, and I think it went really well, and it was really fun, and they're going to officially launch it very shortly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're across Canada.
Great. Just try to, what
yeah, where do we go from here?
Like, what because there's so many things that I could talk to you about, and here's something in terms of like when I was talking with, I think the last time I talked with Sex T-Rex, Caitlin mentioned that somehow when you tweet something, people pay attention, and when she tweets something,
she says that,
they lose followers. So, what is your secret sauce to Twitter? What is your?
She says that, and I can't figure it out either. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know why I love Twitter so much, and I always feel a little bit like silly, even talking about it. Like it's kind of a vapid, very new, very fleeting phenomenon, right? So it's not going to last. But
I don't know. I gotta introduce you to my friend Adriana, because Twitter is like, that's her profession.
Yeah, there are people
right?
who make careers out of social media. Yeah, and I am very inspired by that. I think it's fantastic because you're using it such a strong tool that you have so many eyes on it. But I really don't know what it is. So you don't know what your secret sauce is? You don't know what it is? No, I don't know. I don't know where my my secret is. I couldn't even tell you.
Do you have, like, when you're going into looking at promoting a sex T-Rex show, do you have a plan? Do you have like
God, no, I usually find out about the shows about a week in advance.
Okay. But do you create a strategy for how you want to promote it, or do you just sort of go by the skin of your teeth?
Generally, but I do actually sometimes like schedule myself. Like if I know I have all these different things I want to plug for the event, like actually for myself right now, I have kind of a schedule laid out of where I want the Sex T-Rex social media outlets to go over the next few days, because there's lots of different things going on, and you can't just like, I'm a fan of like making one long post with like all the details and kind of pinning it at the top, either on Facebook or Twitter, but so that if people go, then the details are right there.
Yes, yeah.
And maybe that's my special sauce, is that like every tweet kind of includes the information. So it's like, even if you're just kind of quickly looking at it, you know right away. You don't have to go looking for the link to what are they talking about. It's right there. You just click it. You can buy your ticket right away.
Yeah.
But if you have to do the research yourself, then you're not going to get those.
Well, you don't want people to put effort into buying your tickets.
Exactly.
You want to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah. But even if I have like that big one long post with all the details of like, we have 5 shows coming up in the next 3 weeks. Come see this, and this.
Yeah.
You still have to like upkeep by blasting it out every single day, right?
So but not in the same. The trick.
No,
like,
exactly.
Not in the same way. You've got to find a different way to say the same.
And that's
thing.
hard too, because I don't like, they're the funny ones, but it's like, I have to like come up with like funny way. I'm the voice of a comedy troupe, but I'm not very funny. So like all their tweets and stuff are just like, buy tickets now, rather than like I want them to be.
But then maybe that's all they like. Yeah. As far as that stuff goes, maybe that's just what they need.
Yeah.
Because
and sometimes
they're taking care of the funny on
stage.
Themselves.
Yeah.
And also sometimes by just making crazy bets with each other.
Yeah.
Because I've been noticing it almost seems like the Atlantic Fringe Festival has just been them making bets with each other about stupid things, and then having to dress in a strange way afterwards.
That's the dice game invented by Shane Adamczak of Zach Adams fame.
Yes.
He's actually going to be moving here to Toronto very shortly.
Oh, is he?
As soon as he's done the Vancouver Fringe, because his partner is Thea Fitzjames, who just did Naked Ladies at Summerworks.
I've been watching his exploits.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I love to follow along. I live vicariously through him. But yeah, he invented the dice game, which is just a very stupid bet. If I roll a 4, you have to do this kind of things, and so that's crazy. That's where a lot of our fun comes
I don't think I would ever bet Shane on anything like that. He's doing pretty. Like he's doing pretty well. With his show.
Yeah, his new show is called The Ballad of Frank Allen. It's based on a little mini-series he wrote for Bloody Underrated, which in turn was based on Al LaFrance, of course, the founder of Bloody Underrated, who's also currently in Halifax.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
What I think is what's hilarious to me is I saw a screenshot of like a review that was like, Al LaFrance is this, and I was like, wait a second, but it was like a review of the show that he's doing, which is based on a real guy but not a real guy.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Meta,
it's so like, it's about, Shane wrote a play about a man who lives in another man's beard.
Yes.
Like, he wrote, like, to write it as a story on Bloody Underrated, you know, it was funny in itself.
Yeah.
But then he turned it into a staged play that's unbelievable. Like, I can't even fathom how he staged that.
Yeah.
I hope I get to see it someday.
I hope
Some
so too. But
incarnation of it.
they haven't come this way with that.
No,
that show.
and his co-star is Australian. He's going back home.
Oh, wow.
So we're not going to get to see it here in Toronto.
Well.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Unless you take his place, I guess.
I would have to grow the beard a lot longer, I think. Maybe just get Al LaFrance to come into it. Then it's like...
But Shane plays Frank Allen. So Al LaFrance, Frank Allen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Frank Allen is based on Al.
Okay.
Is that right?
No, because
No, you're right. You're right,
because he lives in Al LaFrance's beard.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so confusing and meta. So confusing. Did you ever... So you've got a whole lot of things that you're working on right now.
I have notes for myself just to be able to talk about them.
So, can you pick one of those things that's like the thing that you're looking forward to most?
I can't.
That's fair.
I mean, I'm actually really bummed to be missing the next edition of Confabulation. It's going to be fantastic, but we actually have a fundraising event at Nightwood that same night. So, you know, sometimes these things conflict. And it's funny, like, it's funny how my heart changes, like, almost day to day. Like, for one day I'll be thinking about Confabulation and I can't think about anything else in this, you know, but then something else will pop into my mind where, I should write this down about. And even that's another thing when I'm on Twitter, like I'll be like taking notes like from one account to say, I need to follow this person from that account because that's useful for them, you know. I also actually another thing I do is I'm helping my pal Steve Schmiller, who's an incredibly talented visual artist, and he's the partner of Ingrid Hansen of Snack Music, so he was actually in an incarnation of Snack Music, the original one, and he's got a show coming up on October 20th that's a series of his illustrations that he does of fake ads. It's really funny. Like, he's super brilliant and very clever, and so he'll do a lot of funny like wordplay or just nonsense where he'll have like a 6x6 inch ad for like horse shadows or chair bears. Like, if you want to keep your chair, you just put a chair bear. It's a chair bear. So they're so lovely. So I help him out with his social media as well to try and get eyes on him as well. Yeah, and that's another thing. It's like the day before Mouthpiece and Quiver are opening is his opening exhibit. So
everybody just wants to keep you really busy.
Definitely.
Really busy.
Yeah. Well, I love it though.
Well, I mean, and you must be good at it because people keep asking you to help them with stuff to do it. So,
but you know, you get to a point. I don't know about you, but I get to a point where like sometimes I'm like, why did I say yes to this again?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to tell you that one of the most difficult lessons that I ever learned was saying no. Yeah. Because I spent a lot of time saying, like, I would say yes to everything. Yeah. And then I'd be in the middle of like, all of these things that I was doing, thinking, I'm kind of miserable right now. And learning that I had to start saying no to things. But I don't like saying no to things.
I know, nobody does. Nobody does. And that's a lesson, too, when you're on the other side, when you're trying to ask people for donations or to come to your show. Like, nobody likes to say no.
No.
You just have to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. We're almost at the end of our time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.